What is the psychology of the workaholic, the person that can't stop working, the person who is in some sense addicted to work, the person that you can't pull away from doing the 9 to 5 or doing the business or doing the career or climbing up the career hierarchy in terms of status, in terms of making a certain amount of money, in terms of dedicating their time to an extreme work ethic, which is actually dysregulating their own mental and physical health. What is the psychology behind this kind of individual, and why are they the way that they are? Well, I believe that they fundamentally have a specific fear, and that specific fear is a fear of time itself. They are afraid of time. And what do I mean by this? We can only really understand this until we get into the head and into the mind of the workaholic. And the way we do this is we have to first look at how they perceive themselves in relation to others, and how they perceive their own value in relation to themselves and others also. So one way in which they perceive themselves is through this lens, which is that their sense of self-worth is dependent on external validation, which is to say that they only feel valuable, they only feel worthwhile or worthy of any kind of praise or positivity only if they work. If they work, then they feel like they're doing something that they should be doing. So if you take themselves out of that, they don't feel like they are worthy of anything. And this is very, very obvious if you simply do this one thing with someone who might be a workaholic, or if you are a workaholic. You give them free time. What do they do with their free time? Or let's say you give them free time to do everything else but work. And how do they perceive themselves? It's very likely that they will start to feel guilty because they are not working. And the reason for this is because they are reliant on external validation, which means that they cannot validate their own existence internally outside of work. Because as soon as you take work away from them and say, hey, look, here's loads of free times, do whatever you want. You don't have to be working this week, whatever. They're going to feel the pressure of, man, I need to work, because if I don't work, I feel like I've not done the right thing. They start to feel guilty that they have basically not used the time as they perceive time in the correct way. And when this happens, they start to feel depressed. They start to feel really low. They will get moody. They will get angry with themselves. They'll start shaming themselves. Start thinking, man, I should be working. Why am I wasting my time on not working? And this is what I mean by that they are afraid of time, in the same sense that time is their enemy. As soon as you give the workaholic free time, as soon as you give the person who works all the time to do anything but work, they don't like it. They start to say, oh, time, I've got all this free time to do anything, but I don't want to waste it on anything else but work, because work is like the highest ideal or something. And this is purely out of societal conditioning. So usually, the workaholic is also usually someone who doesn't know how to deal with time, because they perceive time as their enemy. So they're always in panic mode. They're always rushing with things. They don't know how to plan. They have really bad time management. Because if you only use your time to work all the time. Let's say it's on your own business. Let's say it's on the job that you have, that you're getting paid a wage and you're just doing it full time, and you're excessively working way too many hours, and your mental health is all over the place because you don't know how to be present with yourself, because you're always doing something that is outside of yourself. This leads to a lot of problems. So you'll often find that, someone who is a workaholic, they don't know how to actually have a good relationship with time themselves. Well, because one, they don't use time to their advantage for self-care. They don't use time to do anything outside of work, leisurable activities. They don't know how to look after themselves in that sense. So their mental health and their self-care goes out the window. And everything is based on the value of external validation. So it's like, I want to get a pay rise. I want to impress my boss. I want to achieve certain status symbols or I want to achieve certain goals of materialistic desire. All of these things, right? And then because those things are never going to fulfill the soul, you're constantly in this cycle of chasing the 9 to 5 kind of, you're in a constant mindset of being in a rush hour. You're constantly working. And this over time destroys the soul, because ultimately society kind of wants you to be like this. Society doesn't really, they kind of indoctrinate you in the sense, consumer society, consumer capitalism, that time is your enemy. You don't have time for anything. You only have time to work. And if you don't have time to work, then you're a failure because you're not working and you're not making a certain amount of money and you're not competing with the rest of the world on this great stage of capital investment and capital gains and all this type of stuff, whatever. So you basically are constantly victim to this way of life and you are never truly at peace with yourself. So that's kind of the workaholic. Now, there's many other fears that are involved in this. Maybe that individual never received any praise when they were younger. So they had this kind of fear of failure. And then that fear of failure, the understanding of failure is coming in from the outside world, where they perceive, well, what is failure in terms of society? Failure is being unemployed, not having any savings, not making a certain amount of money every month, not having a good career, all these types of things. So the individual look at that and be like, well, I don't want to fail. I don't want society to not praise me. I don't want to not be validated by society. I want to be validated because I maybe never achieved any other form of validation when I was younger. So they have a fear of failure towards this. And then time is their enemy. But time is not their enemy. So there is a great quote by Lao Tzu who says, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. In the sense that, you don't need to be rushing, you don't need to be panicking. It's not going to be efficient to where you're trying to go. It's not going to get you anywhere quicker. So another good way of looking at this is looking at maybe Napoleon or Alexander the Great, these great emperors, right? And how they would plan. They would have a war plan. Before you'd go into war, before you'd make action upon your day, you'd have a plan. You'd have to plan out your day. You have to plan out how you're going to attack the enemy, right? Now, the workaholic is like rushing, panicking. I need to get this thing done. I just need to go and do it now, Then they usually, workaholics never plan. They have a very bad relationship with time management because time is their enemy. They're kind of allergic to being present and just kind of figuring out an action plan or a step-by-step process to attack the day so that they can get things done as efficiently as possible so that they can actually have the free time to do whatever they want. But instead, no. They don't like free time. They don't like it when they can just sit with themselves because they feel anxious. They're like, oh, I should be working. I should be doing something else. So to kind of satisfy that kind of neurotic desire, they won't plan out their day to make it as efficient as possible so that they can actually have a break from things. Instead, they'll rush into things, make mistakes, kind of work in a half-assed way to the point where they're just working throughout the entire day in these kind of stagnant, mediocre ways to get what they need to get done. But it will take the whole day to get it done because they don't know how to plan out the day. They don't know how to use time management efficiently. They don't have any time management skills. Don't have any prioritization skills. So they're just always working. And their work is not very efficient. But like I was saying, if you actually want to get things done properly, you have to have a war plan. You have to have a plan of action for the next day ahead so that you succeed with your day. And you're not just someone who's making loads of different forms of miniature failures within your work and within your work ethic. Because the thing is, a workaholic doesn't actually have a good work ethic. They're kind of just in this state of neurosis, this state of fear of failure, this state of fear of time, fear of being present, fear of not achieving external validation because they cannot bring about internal validation within themselves. so that they can feel okay of actually having a break or actually doing something else that isn't in relation to work. They're in a constant state of paralysis, basically. A big part of it is trauma, like I was saying to begin with. Maybe they receive no praise, no encouragement, no support from their family members or something. But also, society does want you to be like this. Society doesn't exactly want you to have free time. Society wants you to work all the time. And if you build kind of a value system of this kind of narrative, you're going to live a very unfulfilled life, because it's not how we're supposed to live. We're not supposed to be working all the time. All of these things are social constructs. Money is a social construct. A 9-to-5 job's social construct, so that you are within the economic system, which is also a construct of how to exchange value between people. But then there's obviously exploitation, and there's all this other stuff. So if you follow that way of that value system that kind of society sets up for you to believe in, you're going to be very unsatisfied. And most people, to some extent, are workaholics. Most people have this pressure upon themselves because they're trying to fulfill the expectations of what other people may think of them, or the expectations of authority. Because it's society that's telling you to do all these things to achieve this certain career, that you need to know where you're going in life, that you need to know what career you're going for. I mean, I remember even when I was 15 years old, I was going to school and I was saying, where are you going to be in like 3 years' time? Or like whatever that song is, where are you going to be in like 5 years' time or 6 years' time? I can't remember the song, but like, just blasting out this song everywhere in the school. And I'm like 16, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And I'm like, it's just bizarre, right? You have this indoctrination of, I need to know what I'm doing. And because you're in that state of mind where it's like, I need to know what I'm doing, and I don't know what I'm doing, you're kind of going to develop this kind of neurotic pattern of thinking and action. Because you're like, shit, I don't know what I'm doing. I better do something. Keep doing that thing. Keep doing it. Because I need to make money. I need to achieve external validation. I need to make sure that people are okay with me. I need to make sure that this thing that society keeps telling me to know, at least believes that I know it. But most people don't. And we don't give ourselves even the time to step back from the situation, to even be present with ourselves, to look into ourselves, to figure out, what are my passions? What are my interests? What do I actually really want to do? And the workaholic will often perceive a lot of these things as your passions, your philosophy to life, all of these things. They will start to perceive them as, that's just a lot of crap. You just need to start working, man. You need to start making money. That's what you do. So this is kind of the situation of the workaholic. They're very much stuck in this process. And the good things to think about and meditate on is that Lao Tzu quote: nature doesn't rush. Yeah, everything is accomplished. Everything is accomplished within nature. Nature is the most beautiful thing in that sense, because it's eternally present. It's always in a state of taking its time. Yet nature produces the most beautiful things in the world, the most valuable things in the world. So if you feel like you yourself struggle with time management, that you struggle with prioritization skills, and in that sense you're kind of always procrastinating, because these are a lot of the time the symptoms of procrastination, then I really highly recommend that you book in a call with me, because I know all the techniques, all of the methods to approaching time management, making your time more efficient so that you can actually do the things you actually want to do in a more efficient way. Prioritization skills, how to form good habits within the psychology of habit formation through behaviorism, so that you don't have these vices that you fall into. Because a lot of the times, workaholics usually go through burnout stages because they don't know how to manage their time, right? Because they have this weird neurotic association to time. So when they don't know how to relate to time properly, they fall into burnout. They fall into they're very stressed out people, right? So if you feel like you are one of these kind of individuals and you want to work on this kind of stuff, then do book in that free one-on-one coaching call down below. We can talk all about the situation and see how it applies to what I do with people when it comes to working on this kind of stuff. And we can set up a one-on-one coaching system and one-on-one coaching plan for you going forward that we can attack, so that you can basically fix these issues of a lack of efficiency, a lack of prioritization, a lack of accountability, and stuff like this. So if you enjoyed this video, guys, make sure to give it a like, share it around, comment your thoughts down below, and I will speak to you in the next one.